Before my father came back, he was arguably one of the smartest men in his profession. His doctoral thesis is still regarded as best practice across Europe. Writing it opened the door to his subsequent career, which led to all sorts of honours for him. Indeed, if you asked anyone in the family what was our father's most notable attribute, they would, without doubt, have said his mind, his intellect. He always had a formidable memory, but also a passion for poetry, and could recite hundreds off by heart. It's 33 years ago now since he came back. The doctors at the hospital called it a heart event rather than a heart attack. None of us in the family knew he'd come back, at first anyway, as we didn't know he'd gone away. We all just thought it had been a very close thing. But it wasn't. He hadn't recovered, he had returned. It took him quite some time before he told us he'd come back. My dad was born into a family of Jewish descent and only became a follower of Jesus in his middle age. Compared to my mother, his faith was more measured, more traditional than her more charismatic preferences. He wasn't prone to talking about miracles and supernatural happenings. So it came as a bit of a surprise when he told us that during his heart event, he had become consciously aware of a pure, divine love and a brilliant light drawing him toward itself. He told us too of the profound peace of that moment, and that he knew that he had a simple choice: either to go on into the light and the love, or to turn back. He said that he remembered reflecting that all his affairs were in order, and that he knew that Mum would be well provided for, and that my elder sister, who was then 21, was well set on her future career path. But then, he said, his thoughts turned to me, Luke. I was just 15 at the time. In an instant, he said, he was aware of how much I still needed a father as well as Mum. And so, again, in the same instant, he decided to turn back. And he did. To begin with, all the family thought Dad had been spared for some great task that lay ahead, some fresh career challenge. But the heart event turned into a long, drawn-out process. The loss of oxygen he had experienced led to a subsequent neurological degeneration, and one thing led inexorably to another, resulting in his early retirement on medical grounds. A few years after that, he became housebound. For the past 18 years, unable to speak, and for the last 7, he's been bedbound. And here we are, 33 years on, with my elderly father lying there in bed. The man whose intellect and success had meant he was so often away from home during my childhood, and who came back for me, Luke, his son, is now always present. Dad's illness is at once both the greatest burden and the greatest blessing of my life. It's been a huge strain on the whole family. The physical effort, as well as the mental and emotional exhaustion, the increasing social isolation and sense of abandonment as friends and family drift away. The feeling of ebbing, left behind by the pace of the world and people's able-bodied and able-minded lives. And yet, for all the agony my father's condition has brought the family, his very constancy and presence has been an image for me of God's love and acceptance. What indeed is the measure of a life? Does a life that can do nothing unaided have no value? Is the man with dribble on his chin not as precious as the man with poetry on his lips? Yes, I wish he would be healed, and I still pray that he would. I wish he could recover and all that he has lost, and that there was no dribble on his chin. In the past year, I twice had to give him CPR on the bedroom floor, and I do not know how much more time we have together. But I find myself surprisingly proud of him now, and love him more now than when he shone like a supernova in his field of research. It's the way he looks at me these days, the way he's looked at me for many years now, except on those very difficult days when he turns away. It's the way he focuses on me. And the very presence of God is within him. He looks at me with such sure and pure love. And I see that the essence of my Father is not as the world once thought, in his great mind, but rather in his abiding love.